Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. As you arrive, Ari decides to leave. What's new? And today's video is our recap for everything I read in the month of June. I did quite a lot of books this month. I think I got up to 9. Most of them were audiobooks, and a good chunk of the audiobooks, I think there's like 3 audiobooks, I finished in like basically a day because they were only 6 to 8 hours long, but we'll get into that later in the video. We're going to start off with the first book that I read in June, and that is Women of Good Fortune. The cover should be floating next to me, and I think it's a really cool cover. I gave this book 3.5 stars. So, a little bit above average. It was a good read. I would definitely recommend. We have 3 women as our main characters. We have one who is unhappily married, one who is unhappily engaged, and one who is single, and she's happy that she's single, but she wants to be focusing on her career. And because she's a woman, she's not getting the same chances as her male colleagues. And so she's unhappy in that aspect. And they're all of them are unhappy in part because of their families. So they're both like arranged marriages, kind of, I think. So our woman who is married, she isn't in love with her husband. She thinks that her husband isn't in love with her and that he only married her because she has a nice apartment. Our girl who's engaged is only engaged because the man who proposed to her is very well off. And her family is struggling financially, so she's doing this to help her family. And at times it seems as if her family is ungrateful. Because I believe in this book starts, this is during the one-child policy. I might be wrong. I read this book at the beginning of the month, and I didn't write that down in my notes. But this trio of women decide to take life into their own hands, and they are going to do a heist on the fiance's family who's well off, and they are going to use that money for each of them to have their very own happily ever after. And their goal is like, we don't need a happily ever after as like a partner or a man or any of that. We need this money to make our dreams come true. Now, there are some twists and there are some turns, and there might be some happily ever afters with partners. But to find all that out, I would just recommend reading the book. If you're an audiobook listener, that is how I read this book, and the narrator was great. The next book I read in June is the new Ellie Hazelwood that I've now talked about quite a few times already on this channel because I read this at the beginning of the month and I need to talk about it right away. Let me just adjust my grip so you can see the title. It's a very pretty book too. It has like some shininess. I digress. 5-star book in my opinion. Some might call me biased because I love a good Ellie Hazelwood read. But I do love a good Ellie Hazelwood read. I think she's great. I think she's a great author and a great human. Specifically, this book is her first, I believe it's her first like sequel technically, to Not in Love. Is it Not in Love? I think so. I had to check real quick. I'm like 80% certain, but now I'm like a little bit not certain. So this is about Maya, Eli's brother, if you've read Not in Love. We're gonna just go for it. I think it's Not in Love. So this is about Maya and Connor. and they're at a destination wedding for Maya's older brother, who is Connor's best friend. And some things to note is that this is an age gap romance. I will say, for people who aren't sure if that is for them, though there are brief interactions when Maya is a teenager and Connor is like a young adult, they don't really recognize that like each other exist. Like they're aware, like, oh, that's my friend's kid sister, and oh, that's my brother's best friend. But she is more focused on what's going on in her life and finishing high school, and this guy is more focused on his startup. So when they meet again, when she is in college and an adult, um, it becomes less problematic in my opinion. And the biggest thing I can say for this book is that, like most of Ali Hazelwood books, they talk very importantly about consent. And he even brings up the fact that they can't be together. Like, that's his whole thing. They can't be together because the age gap is inappropriate. And he knew her when she was in high school. And she counters this with, like, if you knew me so well when I was in high school, like, name one of my friends, name one thing that I was interested in. She's like, because I cannot do the same for you. And like, he can't, because again, was not actually paying attention to her existence. But we get a couple of flashbacks, chapters. It's a really cute read. I personally read this right after Matt and I's like reception weekend. And that was a little bit of a destination. So I was giddy, and I don't know how Allie always knows what I want or need to read when she's releasing books, but she is like almost always spot on. She releases a book and I was like, how did you know this is what I needed in my life? She's magic. My third book in June is another audiobook, and this is The Kiss Countdown. Very cute. I was like in a very romantic like swing. I normally am. I do like a good romance. I personally got a kick out of it. Like the first 4 books that I read in June all had like pink or red covers. We were vibing. We were vibing with the pinks and the reds in June. The Kiss Countdown. I gave this 3 stars. It was a good first book. I believe it was this author's debut novel, and I liked it. So The Kiss Countdown is a romance between our female main character, who is a semi-disgraced event planner. She's trying to start out her own business because her previous firm has let her go due to internet scandal, which is just, there was a mishap at a wedding that she was the event coordinator for, and no one wanted to work with her, which isn't entirely true, as you'll find out, but reputation is everything. And a NASA astronaut. As a big space fan myself, anytime a book has like astronauts or space, I'm like instantly more interested. So cute cover, little romance, space, I was into it. So this astronaut and our event coordinator definitely have the fake dating trope. They kind of get together to get her ex kind of like off her back, and not like feeling sorry for her, and to get his mom off of his back because she wants him to settle down, and she thinks that that will make him not want to be an astronaut, which I don't know why you would work that hard and not be an astronaut. Like, it's probably one of the coolest jobs you can have. And a tidbit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to listen to the spoiler, just skip like 30 seconds ahead. It does lead to a fake engagement trope, and I don't mind that. But I think some people are like, not for me. So there's your warning. There is a fake engagement trope. I thought the main reason that I gave this just like a 3 stars and not anything higher is the pacing seemed a little bit off for me. But I think with experience and like the more anyone does anything, you're going to get better. The more videos I make on this channel, I hope that I get better at doing them. And the more we practice our jobs or our hobbies, like we're naturally going to get better. So when I see a debut author, like as a reader, like I don't mind like figuring out how you're going to pace a story or any of those things. Especially when it's not a bad story. Like it was cute, it had a satisfying ending. There were just moments where I was like, oh, I feel like this day is like really long, or oh, I didn't realize that we had jumped this far ahead in time. And could just be a me issue. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. But for me, the pacing was a little bit off. Um, but yeah, super cute. They both have like a little bit of a sad backstory, which helped with the bonding. And they ended up together. Oh no, spoiler alert. But it is a standalone romance, so maybe not a spoiler alert. Before we talk about my next book in June, I just want to point out that, like, just off camera, Artie Cat is right next to me, and she's so cute. And, like, girl, you can't be cute sitting on my armchair. And, like, this is the Cozy Cat Reader channel. And right now, all you're getting is books, which is probably the main reason why you're here. But if you're here for cats, they're just off screen. They're all sleeping right now. It is cat nap time in my household. So, probably not going to get any more cat cameos today. Okay, so my next book is another debut novel, An Enchanting Case of Spirits. This I gave 3.25 stars. So I have a notes app on my phone, and every time I finish a book, I go to it and just like based on vibes, I know where to put it. And then that's kind of how I get my star rating. Like, is it above average? Is it in books that I also felt were above average, super above average, couldn't set down? And sometimes, like, after I rate them, they move around towards the end of the year. So maybe at the end of the year, we'll have to do a little recap because I feel like sometimes books grow on you. But I gave this one just a little bit over average. It's very cute. It is a very cute novel. I think I first ran into this in the romance section of my bookstore, but since then, with its sequel that has just come out, they've moved it to the cozy mystery, and I think that's a better fit. So this is a cozy mystery, but there is some romance. And some of the things that I absolutely adore about this book that make it so unique is that, at least for me, the characters are, in my opinion, not what I would normally read. I don't know if it's coming out the way I wanted to. So our main female character, Alyssa, is 40 years old. She has a daughter, and she's a widower. In my experience, I haven't read really like any books that have a protagonist who's and still in the prime of her life. She's still in her 40s, but that's not my experience. So I really appreciated the different perspective. And her male main character, Nick, is 45. And he has also experienced loss. His previous fiance passed. And it was so interesting to me to see, like, not only like a second chance romance where both people had found who they thought they were going to spend the rest of their life with, and through unfortunate events, like, that's not the case. And they're still working through their grief, and they're still finding that they still have so much life to live, and they can still find love again, and that's okay. Um, and so all that, like, really endeared this book to me. And you throw in that it's just very funny and cute. So on her 40th birthday, Alyssa and her two besties go to get their cards read, their tarot cards read. And it ends up being more of a seance. And Alyssa unlocks her own hidden power that she didn't even know of, to communicate with ghosts, which then leads to some unfortunate incidences where ghosts attach themselves to her and ask her to help them pass on, and in one case, solve his murder, which leads us back to Nick, our main male character, who is her neighbor and a detective. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it so I don't spoil anything else. But there are two different point of views. There is Alyssa and Nick's. I think I would have liked it more if the two point of views were more evenly distributed. Alyssa is definitely the main character because we see a lot more of her point of view, and it felt like to me that Nick's point of views, like, were a surprise. They were still well written and like distinct voices, but like I was always pleasantly surprised when I got to a Nick chapter. I was like, oh, this is great. Because I like being in both people's heads in a romance. I think it's really fun. So also, you might already know, but I actually get to meet with Melissa at the end of this month and talk to her about her books and her writing processes. So if you have any questions that you think would be fun, I have not, at filming this video, met with her yet. So put them in the comments and I'll try and compile everything, if there are any comments for this video. And yeah, we're gonna talk to her about her books. And one of the questions that I already have written down that I want to talk to her is like, what was the process and like why are they not evenly distributed? When did you decide to have a Nick chapter? And I'm super excited to hear her process because I don't know, I've never written a book before, and I think I want to know like the thought process behind it. So again, it was a personal preference, which is why the personal rating is what it is. But I would give this a try, and I'll probably like bring this up again in a couple months because I think these two books. I also read the sequel this month. I think these two books would be a great cozy fall read. Like, picture this: the leaves are changing. There's a nice breeze. We're not in a heat wave. You're in your house and you have a hot coffee or a hot tea and you're bundled up and you're reading. And like every once in a while, like you hear the rustle of the leaves and you're reading a cozy mystery with a slow burn. This is definitely going on my you need to read this in the fall list. We're going to go a little bit out of order and just talk about Melissa's second novel, A Charming Touch of Tarot, because I was reading this the rest of the month while I was also listening to 3 other audiobooks, and those 3 are in their own series. So we're just going to finish talking about Melissa's series. Yeah, I actually finished this right on the 30th, so I gave myself like a little high five. I was like, yes, right on time. I was going to include it in the wrap up, even if it bled a little bit into July, but I was tickled when I finished this actually completely in June. So this is our second novel in the same universe. Our main characters are still Alyssa and Nick, and we are still mostly in Alyssa's point of view for the whole thing. I gave this 3.75 stars. It was so good. Like, it was so good. We really expand our universe. The first book is like solely set in one small town. And this book, we travel to Florida, to New Orleans. We travel in the same state, but a little bit outside the small town to a couple other small towns. The mystery is a lot bigger and like more intense in this book, but it's done in such a good way. One of the other cozy mysteries that I listened to, it got a little bit intense for me. And this one didn't do that. Like the whole time I'm like, yes, I'm not afraid. I can definitely go to bed, even when we're talking to bad guys. And again, we have some ghosts that make appearances. We have some poltergeist, and we end up expanding our mystical powers in this book, and not just Alyssa, but her friend. Nope, I'm not going to tell you anything else because I don't want to spoil it. You definitely need to read this book as well. And if you can just read it back to back, that's what I would recommend. Like, read the first one, immediately start this one. I think there's only like 2 months in between the books in the universe. It was so good. Let me see, what else do I have in my notes? So we see Alyssa and Nick get even closer, and yeah, it's still very much a slow burn. If you like longing and tension building, like I'm really trying to figure out like the best way to describe it without spoiling anything. You'll really like Nick and Alyssa's romance. And again, just echoing the fact that like they are still like working through grief, and it's something they can understand about each other, and it's very sweet. So, a charming touch of tarot. All right, our last 4 books are all audiobooks. They're all in the same series. They're all cozy mysteries. And I think they would all make really good end of the year fall reads. So that's how we're going to start this. We're still going to talk about each book individually, but they are very much like a continuation. These are the short books that I talked about earlier in the video, and at least for me, there was no wait at my library for these books. So I would literally start one and then reserve the next one because I knew I would finish it within a day, depending on what was going on that day. Sometimes I would like do it in 2 days, but really they're short reads. If you need a good audiobook, would recommend. Also, I really want to shout out StoryGraph. If I can figure out how to get an image of StoryGraph floating next to me, I will do that. The first 2 books in this series, I buddy read with my friends Elise and Victoria, and through StoryGraph, not sponsored at all. I use StoryGraph, Goodreads, and Fable because I'm not going to give up my Goodreads. I've been on it for so long, and I like the history. And then Fable and StoryGraph both give me different fun things. If you want a video talking about the 3 different tracking apps that I use, or if you know of a different one that I have it mentioned, I can always get another one and we can talk about it. But specifically for today, we're going to talk briefly about StoryGraph and one of what I think is like the coolest feature that I found on it. And it's the buddy read system. So what you do is one person starts the buddy read and you invite however many people you want. I think there is a limit, but it seemed high. Off the top of my head, I think it was like 12, but that may be too low. You invite your friends to read it. And then what it does is at the top of the buddy read page, you can see how far everyone is. So Victoria and I were able to get the audiobooks from our respective libraries, and Elise ended up getting the ebook. So as you can expect, Victoria and I finished the book before Elise because it's a lot faster to listen to a book than to read it. And you can like see everyone's progression. And then the really cool thing is you can leave comments and it'll track how far you are in the book, and it'll leave comments at that point. And then they're like locked and hidden from everyone else until they've reached that far in the book. So like if I'm reading it and I'm at 23% and something happens and I want to leave a comment, I go ahead and do that. Now, if Victoria is already at 40%, she would be able to immediately see my comment and it would let her know. It'd be like, hey, Mackenzie just left a comment, and she could go in and read it and reply or react or however she wanted to do that, or just read my comment. But let's say Elise is still at 13%, it's going to be like, Mackenzie left a comment at 23%. This is locked until you get there. And it really like, it has a little like lock symbol and it's like, you can't read it yet, which is wonderful because then you don't accidentally spoil something for your friends. And I've also found it helpful, like as Elise got further in the book and was blah, blah, blah. As Elise got further in the book and was leaving her own comments, I could go back and read the comments around and be like, oh yeah, this is where we were in the book. And it was really lovely. So I will set aside my little spiel on StoryGraph and how cool StoryGraph is for now, and we'll get back to talking about the books. So the first book in the series that I did the buddy read of is The Body in the Bookstore by Ellie Alexander, and I gave this 4 stars. This is, like I said, a cozy mystery. The setting is a small town with like cute old stores, and she works at Annie, our main character. Let me start over. Annie's our main character, and she lives in a small town. And in this small town, she works at a bookstore. But the book starts out with her saying, when I was in college studying criminology, my best friend was murdered. And that changed the course of my life. And it made me not want to pursue criminology. And I came to this small town where I started working at a bookstore and like I found myself again. And it's lovely. So we know Annie has experience in criminology, and we also know that that's not a part of her life right now. Anyways, so the bookstore is an independent bookstore, and in today's day and age, sometimes independent bookstores are struggling. And so she comes up with this idea to have like a cozy mystery festival in her cozy small town. She goes to other business owners and she like gets the whole town involved. She's like, what do you guys think? Let's have this festival, and we'll host events at the bookstore, we'll have special drinks at the coffee shop, we'll do XYZ, and hopefully it'll be like a big event for the whole town and all of the small businesses will make money. Everyone's on board except for one bar. One bar is like, not gonna join, not doing it. I'm too cool. And because it's a cozy mystery, someone gets murdered. And then we're trying to figure out who done it, why was this person murdered? It seems like a lot of people disliked this person. Why? And throughout the book, there are twists and turns. The three of us are really talking about we're like, Mystery Festival sounds like so much fun. I wish this were real. I wish this happened near us. Only to later find out that Mystery Festival is a real thing. And I don't think we're able to make it this year, unfortunately, but we're thinking maybe next year of going to Mystery Festival. I lost my train of thought because I was so excited about Mystery Festival. Okay, talking about Mystery Festival, and we were also commenting on how it kind of felt like the Nancy Drew games that we grew up playing, like on the computer, where you're Nancy and you're walking around and people just start telling you things, which if you like it, and I like it, it's wonderful. So that's like the vibes of the body in the bookstore. And there's a little bit of information about Scarlett, Annie's old roommate, who was unfortunately murdered while they were in college. The next book in this series is A Murder at the Movies. I also gave this a 4 stars. Mystery Fest was a great success and got some attention. And because of this, an independent film director reaches out to Annie and is like, I'm creating a thriller movie, and I'd love for our premiere to take place in your town, and let's do like a whole weekend of it. And he's a little bit tentative at first, but she agrees. She's like, you know what? Again, this event is going to be good for our small town. It's an independent movie, so there's not going to be like huge stars, but it'll still bring attention to Redwood Grove, and it would be a fun weekend. So the stars come in, the movie director comes in, a movie critic comes in, and the weekend begins. And there's some strange mysteries that we are slowly getting aware of, or becoming aware of. And lo and behold, there's a murder at the movies. That was so cheesy. I'm so sorry. But it's a cozy mystery. What do you expect me to do? The titles are so adorable. So again, we're in a whodunit. Annie and her team of cozy investigators are helping out the local authorities, gathering information, using her criminology degree to figure out who the murderer is. This is the one where, like, at the end, it started to get a little bit too intense for me, which, like, looking back, it wasn't that intense, but my heart was racing a little bit. There's a scene where Annie is confronted by the killer, and we're putting it all together, so it's very close to the end of the book. And it just gets intense. I also buddy read this one, and my comments were like, oh my god, what's happening? Why are we being this intense in my cozy mystery? Thank goodness so-and-so came up, so so-and-so didn't get away. Because I don't want any spoilers, so that's why I'm saying so-and-so. Additionally, we get a little bit more information about Scarlett and Scarlett's case. There isn't a ton of information about Scarlett's murder in this one, but we are building on the information that we have, and it was like kind of the first peak of, okay, each book will have its own murder mystery, but the series, it seems like, is going to have this overarching mystery revolving around Scarlett. I said this one was 4 stars, but if I didn't, 4 stars. The third book in this cozy series, which the series is called A Secret Bookcase Mystery, and that's because the bookstore is called The Secret Bookcase. And there is a secret bookcase store in the bookstore. It's so cool. This one is called Death at the Dinner Party. This one has been my favorite that I've read in this series, and Victoria is going to fight me on this because it was not her favorite. I gave it 5 stars. I was like, this book, amazing. It's more of like a locked room murder mystery. So we are at a dinner party. It is a fundraiser dinner party. And at this fundraiser dinner party, it's just going to be a murder mystery themed dinner party. Nothing can go wrong. It's not like the last 2 events that Annie helped organize resulted in murder. Definitely nothing can go wrong. When you're reading cozy mysteries like this in a series, there is that little bit of like suspension of disbelief. Like, no one's going to question the fact that every time Annie hosts an event, someone dies. Maybe she hosts events outside of the books that we don't know about and no one dies. So everyone's like, poor Annie. Every 3rd event she throws, someone's going to die. And it's always like a visitor or someone that like doesn't seem important to the town. So maybe the town people don't care. They're like, Annie's going to host this event. We're going to make money and someone's going to die. But it's okay because we'll solve the crime and everyone can go home. If you can't tell, I've really been enjoying these. So Death at the Dinner Party, like I said, it's a fundraiser murder mystery themed dinner party. But unfortunately, someone dies. And Annie, of course, needs to solve it. But how can you solve this murder when it was a hidden murder, but also it happened in front of everybody? Like, who could commit this murder in front of all the other guests without anyone noticing? This one kind of felt more like, I haven't read an Agatha Christie. I should. But I believe it was compared to like Agatha's like locked door murder mysteries, which wouldn't surprise me because Agatha is like brought up throughout the series as like as the bookstore owner's like favorite author, and I'm going to leave it at that. But there is a cute little spoiler. If you know, you know. Anyways, I thought of it like kind of like a game of Clue. So we have our people at the party, and it's like, it was so and so in the dining room with the poison. And it was so fun figuring it out. That one has been my favorite. 5 stars. Would recommend. But also, I mean, I guess you could read this like on your own. There'd be a couple of callbacks that you wouldn't necessarily get. But it wouldn't be the end of the world. But just read them all. Just read them all. They're so short and sweet. Like just do it. And last, but certainly not least, for all of the books that I read in the month of June is A Holiday Homicide. This one takes place around Christmas. So if I'm recommending when to read these books, I think I would wait until maybe even after Halloween. Like, start them in November. Start the first 3 in November. If you're gonna do the audiobooks, wait until the Thanksgiving holiday. Add some cozy mystery to your Thanksgiving. If you're physically reading them, however much time you need to read a like 350-ish page book, it'll hook you, I think. Read the first 3 and kind of time it so that after Thanksgiving, when it's like full swing Christmas holiday season, that's when I would read A a holiday homicide because I feel like it would just like vibe so well. Reading it in June is kind of like I was reading it during a heat wave, and we're talking about snow and gingerbread houses. I was just longing for the fall. Anyways, so this time, the event that Annie is helping organize is a bake-off. A social media influencer who is a baker reaches out to Annie, or no, reaches out to the local baker and wants to do this. And that person reaches out to Annie and says, like, what can we do? Like, you're so good, Annie, at having the whole town get together and making these events. Nothing can go wrong in this one, right? And so, of course, something goes wrong, and there is a murder. I won't say who gets murdered, as I haven't said for any of them. But Ellie Alexander, like, has this thing where, like, the people who are murdered in these books, like, it's the person you would want. Like, oh, hi, Artie. Thank you for making an appearance. Look at this. You get books and cats in this video. Like I was saying, the unfortunate people who get murdered in her books, like, they're kind of the worst. And you're like, yeah, I knew it was going to be this person because they were being really mean to literally everybody. Um, but in this event, we have an internet influencer, Baker, and we see like parasocial relationships, how internet fame can be invasive, and how not everything that you see on the internet is real, and how maybe some people are taking credit for actually other people's work to make it seem like they're better at what they are claiming to be. And how that all plays in a part of who would actually want to murder somebody and why, and like the different suspicions. This one felt to me kind of like Scooby-Doo-ish, like there's so many different possibilities. Who's the big bad guy and why? I gave this one a 4 stars again. I just really loved Death at a Dinner Party. So coming off of that one, it couldn't have been 5 stars because it wasn't Death at a Dinner Party. Again, we're starting to get more and more information about Scarlett's murder, and we're starting to see the books. You're getting a resolution on the book murder a little bit earlier, and then we're getting more information about Scarlett, and we're developing more into the characters. Other things that we see throughout the series, from the first book through this book, and at this point in time, I have listened to the 5th book in the series, but I'm going to avoid talking about that book because I read it in July, so that will be in July's wrap up. But we see not only Annie grow and develop as a character, but we see her like intimate friendship circle. They're all growing and getting used to this new part of their lives where they're kind of helping solve murders. It's like we're the Scooby Gang. I don't think they actually say that, but in my brain, I'm like, you guys are the Scooby Gang. Where's the mystery mobile? um, and yeah, we're like getting a lot more information about this overarching plot. We see Annie starting to like open herself up again to like possibilities. There might be a little bit of romance, not as much of a slow burn as Melissa's books, but it's still a very cute romance to go hand in hand with our cozy mystery. I think they're well worth the read. If you haven't read a cozy mystery before and you're not sure if you would like it, I would recommend the Ellie Alexander books. They're short and sweet, so if you like it, you can go through it very quickly. She has a lot of books, which is something I'm very excited about. I love it when I can just go through a series. Yeah, I feel like I was gonna say more and it just left my brain. So we're gonna wrap up our reading recap here. Thank you for making it to this point in the video. A little sneak peek of what I'm reading in July is I've continued reading A Secret Bookcase mystery, so there'll be a couple of books in that wrap up. And I've gone back into hockey romances. Definitely stayed up late, like 2 nights in a row, reading hockey romances. And it was a good decision. Not for my sleep. I was tired, like a lot. I ended up taking such a long nap today. Ugh, my life is so hard. I stayed up late reading a book last night and then I took a nap today. Woe is me. But it's been super fun. So I'm looking forward to going over all the books I read in July in a month from now. And I'm very excited about the videos coming out the rest of this month. Next week I made dinner based off of different books for my friends. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit embarrassed about the cooking shots because I wore something that I would be comfortable in. And then when I'm watching back the footage, I'm like, oh goodness, Mackenzie, are you actually gonna post videos of you in a tank top cooking? I think the answer is going to be yes, and you guys are just going to see my fat arms, and that's okay. Um, and then at the end of the month, we have our interview with Melissa Holtz, which I'm very excited about. And then we're going to be through July. I cannot believe how quickly the time has been going, and we're going to be in August. So until next week, I hope you guys have absolutely amazing days, wonderful reads, and happy new release Tuesday. Bye.